Hello again, friends. This video is going to be about the medical devices that you should have around your home. Um, Even if you're healthy, you should have these things to make sure that you're healthy, because sometimes by the time you go to the doctor, even if you're there for your yearly physical, you find out you've had an issue all year and you didn't realize it. Um, Blood sugar is one of those things. A lot of people are diabetic and they don't even know it yet. Um, But the reason I have all these things is actually because I have a chronically sick child, had a chronically sick child. She's not a child anymore. But we needed to monitor a lot of things so we could figure out what was going on with her. And the reason this is so important is because when you go to the doctor, whether it's your yearly physical or you're there because something's wrong, um, taking that measurement one time and a doctor looking at that one day is not going to tell the whole story. So if you want to take your health into your hands and be proactive and take care of things before they're so bad that you have to take a medication for them, you've got to stay on top of it and monitor things, whether you do it once a week, once a month, or for instance, if you have a headache and you're like, why do I have this headache? Well, a lot of people have headaches when they have high blood pressure. And so you could get out your blood pressure monitor and check your blood pressure and see how high is it. And that's something too that you want to check regularly anyway. And you want to check it in both arms. There's an issue if the two arms are too far off. And if that comes up for you, you can always Google it. But so I'll go ahead and start with the blood pressure cuff since I'm talking about it. But here is, we probably have 4 different ones in our house for different reasons. But here is the one that, you know, goes on your arm. You can also use the wrist one, but I would try to get one of these that goes on your arm. It tends to not have as many error reads as the wrist one. Um, it's more reliable. I don't know if it's more accurate, but it's more reliable when you use it. So, but blood pressure, like I said, you should check it. I would check it daily if you're having issues that you think are blood pressure. If you do have high blood pressure, you should be checking it daily if you're on medication. Um, if you, if you take it once a month, that one time might be low for some reason, and then all the other days of the month might be high. But the best way to see if something's going on is to check it regularly, and then you get a good picture of what your blood pressure is doing. So that's one. And this one might seem obvious. It's a thermometer. There's so many different kinds of thermometers. This is actually a new one I have because I was taking care of my mom, and it was the quickest, easiest way. She had dementia, and it was the easiest way to get her temperature. I could just take it on her forehead, but any thermometer that works for you, that's a no-brainer. You need to check your temperature for so many different things, but you definitely, if you're sick, you do want to know how high is your temperature, so you know if you should, how worried you should be about what's going on with some other symptoms you might be having. So thermometer is the second one. This here you may have seen in the ER, or some, I guess doctors' offices do them as well. Some do. But that is a pulse oximeter. Pulse ox for short. But what it does is, the battery's almost dead. Let me see if it will register anything. I did it a minute ago and it was dying, but it registers your pulse, and it also registers your oxygen level. And I have a quick story about this. The reason, so the oxygen's on the top and then the pulse is on the bottom, 67. And that's how quickly it reads. And then you're done, just turn it off. So this one is important because, and I'm going to tell you why we even own this. Back when COVID was a thing and we all had to wear masks at work, my daughter and I worked together, and both of us were having issues with the mask. And but my daughter, with her chronic health condition, she was getting worse. She had been doing pretty good, and then she was getting worse, and we didn't know why. And then I said, wait a minute, ever since we've been wearing masks at work, she's been going downhill. So I said, you know what, let's get a pulse ox and let's check and see if your oxygen's going down with the mask on. And I can't remember if that was before or after she was in the ER for something. I think this was before. She went to the ER for something, and she was wearing a mask as required, and she was hooked up to their pulse ox, and the machine started beeping, and her oxygen was going low. And one of the nurses was trying to figure out what was going on with it, trying to fix it. And then the other nurse said, oh, don't worry about it. She doesn't need that. So instead of figuring out, is it because something's going on with her? Is it because of the mask? Is our machine malfunctioning? They just said, oh, don't worry about it. Because she wasn't in there for her oxygen being low. She was in there because she was getting stitches. And it was like, well, the oxygen doesn't matter because she's just here for stitches. And I'm just thinking, whoa, what? So, but anyway, I started thinking, because everybody saw that stuff on social media about the masks and what they were doing, and I was having a reaction to it. Even now I have a hard time if I have to put a mask on. I had to wear one at work, and I was constantly pulling it down without even realizing I was pulling it down because I felt like I was suffocating. But wanted to see if there was if something really was going on. And so we ordered on Amazon. It came in. I had her put it on and said, before we check it with your mask on, let's check it without the mask on. And so she put it on, and I'm in my bedroom, and she's going down the stairs, and I hear it beeping. And I'm like, what? Why is it beeping? And she said, I don't know. It says my oxygen's going down to 75. And I said, what? And it stayed there. It kept beeping. And finally she sat down, and it stopped, and it slowly went back up. Now, we have that was, 3 years ago? We have probably told 4 or 5 different doctors at different times for different things that she was seeing them for, that was happening, that her oxygen was going down. They didn't care at all. They told me, normally what they will tell you is your device is malfunctioning. That's their go-to every single time. They also said if it was that low, she would be dead. But for the most part, if it doesn't register on their device, which might be the same exact one as yours, and it doesn't show that it's low in front of them, they don't want to hear it, and they don't care. So we checked it regularly, and that was the part of figuring out what was going on with her. So that was huge for us. Checking it in the doctor's office was completely meaningless. Another thing that happened, because we had this, I was just messing around with it, and I was laying in my bed, and I said, I was more concerned with my pulse, and it measures your pulse regularly, like the blood pressure cuff will do that as well, but the pulse ox you can leave on, and it'll tell you, however frequently it changes, it'll tell you if it's going up or down or whatever. And so I was laying in my bed, and my oxygen started going down, and I was like, what is going on? And eventually I realized that every time I laid on my back, my oxygen was going down. So I would turn to the side, and it would be fine. I kept doing it repeatedly. So now I know, and I don't know why, but now I know that my oxygen's going down when I lay on my back, and I know not to sleep on my back. So I will sleep better if I'm on either side. You don't want to have low oxygen all night. That's not a good thing. And I probably will start doing some supplemental oxygen because just to see if it improves my health, because I was having some issues. But those are the kind of things you can discover when you have the pulse ox. And just an aside, because we had it also, we realized my daughter's, not just her oxygen was going crazy, but so was her pulse. She could sit there and talk to me, and it would go down to 40 and then up to 100 and something. Now, I had seen this in the ER. Here's another thing, too. She was in the ER. I don't even know what it was for, but they keep you hooked up to the machine. Well, I sit there, it's usually in the middle of the night, and I sit there and I watch the numbers, and I saw the same thing in the ER. And when you get the paperwork from the ER showing what your stats were, they will take one quick picture of what it was while she was there, and that will be on that paper, and it can be that picture can be completely normal. It will not say, hey, her blood pressure or her pulse was, the range was 40 to 130. So that the doctor, you're supposed to follow up with your doctor. Doctor has no clue either. They're like, oh, well, that was normal. Well, it wasn't. It's not normal when you're laying there for your pulse to go all the way down to 40 and then go up to 130. And by the way, if you're thinking this, she does have POTS, if you know what that is. A lot of people that have long COVID, POTS is one of the things that they deal with. But she had it like 2 years before COVID was even a thing. So that's something she's been dealing with for a while. But we had to figure that out, what was going on our own. Now, she does have a cardiologist who, discovered that as well. But I didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't realize how big the extreme was. I knew sometimes she would come to me and say, my heart is just racing. But for her to just be sitting there and have that happening was just crazy. Something we needed to figure out what was going on. So that's the pulse ox. Sorry, that was a really long story. The next one is, this is a glucose monitor. And this is the thing that you stick with, and then this is the thing that you you drop it on a little thing, and then you stick it in there. It's really easy to do. It's pretty self-explanatory. So, why do you need to check your blood sugar? Like I said before, especially if you're older, I think you should be checking your blood sugar, especially if you've gained weight. You should be checking your blood sugar, especially if you have a family history of it. And it's just something good to stay on top of. The reason we have it is because when my daughter was sick, everything that you could measure seemed to be getting off in some way, and she kept having a high blood sugar reading on some of her blood work. So we were like, you know what, let's monitor it at home, see what's going on with it, make sure it's not too crazy. We've checked it for low blood sugar as well. When she felt like she had low blood sugar, we would check it for that too. And diabetes does run in our family. I was hypoglycemic for many years, since my 20s, which, by the way, if you have a problem with hypoglycemia, it is more than likely your liver. You need to do a liver detox, and it's real simple to do. You just take some liver-friendly herbs. There's detoxes. There's all kinds of stuff out there. You can Google it or ask at your health food store, and they can tell you what to take. My favorite thing is a detox tea, a lemon-flavored detox tea. It tastes like Fruit Loops, and it's got a bunch of good liver stuff in there, but you could drink 2 or 3 cups of that a day. Go through the whole box, and then you don't have to do it for a while, or you can keep drinking it every day. It's good for your liver, so you might as well. But blood sugar, so if you go to the doctor's office when you get to a certain age, they're going to do your A1C and check your blood sugar and all that as well. But my family has been like forever let down by doctors. And my dad, we have a genetic disorder My mom and dad both have it. It's supposed to be rare, but if you are from Northern Europe, it's more prevalent there. And both of my parents are from there, and it's called Dupuytren's disease. And he had it bad enough. It's basically a hand issue. He had it bad enough to where he needed to have surgery on his hands. And so he went and did his pre-surgery blood work, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you can't have surgery." And he says, "What?" He said, "They're like, your blood sugar's out of control. Your diabetes is not controlled." And he said, "What are you talking about?" And they thought that he knew that a year ago when he went to the doctor for his physical, that they discovered he was diabetic, and nobody called him and told him that he was diabetic. And he went a whole year without knowing, and his blood sugar, when they checked it for his pre-surgery, was 700 something. And they actually hospitalized him and got it under control. And I was livid because that's just ridiculous. And that was probably, I don't even know, 15 years ago, maybe more. I can't remember when he was diagnosed with it, probably 20 years ago. But I think the climate has gotten worse now. I don't know if it's doctors care less, they're busier. I don't know what's going on, but it's even worse now than it was back then. So even more so, you need to stay on top of your health. Don't leave it up to the doctor's office to stay on top of it and to notify you of what's going on. You need to know these things yourself because it could be life or death. It really could. So your blood sugar, you should check maybe once a day for a month, and then after that, maybe once a week. But I will tell you this, something that they're discovering now, and I've known this for like 20 years, the way to lose weight or maintain your weight is to try to prevent blood sugar swings. And the more up and down you have because you're eating a lot of sugar, the harder it's going to be to lose weight, and it will actually cause you to gain weight. So they have these things out now. They're continuous glucose monitors, which you can attach to yourself. It's what diabetics wear. But you can monitor your blood sugar because this is kind of new information. Certain foods will react differently in different people. So if strawberries cause my blood sugar to spike, it may not do it to somebody else. It may go up a little like a fruit will make it do, but it won't cause like the big insulin response or the blood sugar response that it would in me. And that comes down to our gut, the microbiomes in our gut. It's like they're saying now it's like an organ. And so the foods that you eat are going to react differently in your microbiome than somebody else's. So that's one of the benefits to having like the continuous glucose monitor. You don't have to keep sticking your finger repeatedly, but you'll know what the food you're eating is doing to your blood sugar. So I'm not sure how much that is. I think you maybe have to get that from a doctor because it actually attaches to your body, and it's a little bit more complicated, I think, than this system. But this is basic just for checking your blood sugar regularly. Okay, so, before I forget, one of them I don't have in front of me because we use them all. But if you don't know this, you need to. You can get a box of UTI test strips from the drugstore. And they're usually with the feminine hygiene products. And I want to say it's like $10 for a box of 3. That's probably one of the most common infections that people in general, well, I would say specifically girls and women have. And if you have a fever or if your child does, that's one of the things that we had to deal with my daughter. But then my mom was living with us. That's why we ended up buying the ones that we did recently. She was elderly, she had dementia, and it was something that we had to stay on top of because it can get really bad with older people. So if I noticed that something was a little weird, I would just say, hey, let's go ahead and check your urine and make sure we don't have an infection going on. I can tell when one's coming on. I'm able to take supplements pretty quickly. If I know that one's coming on, I can feel it pretty quick. So, but some people, like my daughter, she had no pain or anything when she had urinary tract infections. She started having them chronically when she was 3, and she didn't have any pain. There were no symptoms other than eventually I figured out I could tell by the smell of her urine. But having that test strip too, if you call your doctor and say, well, hey, I did the UTI strip and it's showing I have a urinary tract infection, they may just say, okay, great, we don't need to see you then. We'll go ahead and try an antibiotic and go from there and see what happens. Now, I'm not telling you to do this. I would not call my doctor for a UTI. I don't even have a doctor, actually. But I have killed so many UTIs with cranberry and a certain supplement called Urinary X. I take those things and drink a bunch of water, and I have another fix for it as well. I'm not going to do it in this video, but usually those, if you catch it pretty early, like I can, it takes care of it pretty quick. So, but yeah, urinary test strips is another thing I would keep, especially if you have a little girl and she has a fever and you're not really sure what it is. That's something you can always check. Okay, so last but not least this is a nebulizer, and ironically, I got this from my daughter's doctor. He was one of those concierge natural medicine, and he kind of did a little bit of both. So I bought this because when COVID was real bad, there was a protocol for nebulizing hydrogen peroxide and saline. And you can find the recipe of how to make that combination. You can find it online. This, I want to say, was maybe $50. It may be a little bit more online. I can't remember if we got a good deal because, it was her doctor's office. But anyway, it is worth whatever you have to pay. And I also suggest, unless you're going to be doing traveling, don't get one of those, the ones that, what do they call them? It's smaller. It's not big like this. I would go ahead and get a big one like this. If you're going to travel, get the other one, the smaller one. But get a regular one because it's just going to do what needs to be done better than the other ones. But anyway, so I got this from the doctor's office, because if she gets COVID, I don't know what's going to happen because she was already so sick all the time. And I thought, oh my God, this is not going to be good because what the heck's going to happen? And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think she had COVID at all that we know. Oh, yes, she did. Yes, she did, actually. That was one of the times that the ER failed us. That's a story for another day. But so anyway, I got it from a doctor's office, and it was right before I think she went out of town. I think that was when she was, I don't remember, but anyway, like a week later, yeah, she went for 2 months, she was leaving. And I ended up like a week later coming down with COVID. So I was like, well, thank God I bought this thing because I'm just going to start nebulizing it. I didn't have anything in my lungs yet. I, was like, oh my gosh, I had a really bad headache and I threw up and I was nauseous and that kind of stuff. But I didn't really have anything in my lungs, which is weird because I always have, things always affect my lungs. But I did start nebulizing just in case, just to knock it out because didn't want anything to start up in my lungs. So when I had COVID, I was glad I had it, but I didn't really, I don't know if it made a difference. But then later, maybe a year or two later, my daughter got really sick, like bad cough, bad, I don't know what it was, but I just kept telling her, you need to nebulize, you need to nebulize, you need to nebulize. And she had a cough for, I want to say like 4 weeks. It was so bad. And I think it was around week 3 is when I got what seemed like to be the same thing. And so from the very beginning, I started nebulizing. And I don't know if it cut my illness down any, but it definitely helped the cough. It was a bad cough. And I'm one of those people, I used to get bronchitis every year and have a horrible cough and feel like I was dying. But it was so bad. I was using the nebulizer. I was drinking pineapple juice. I actually took over-the-counter medicine, which I never do. I was trying to hit it from all sides, and it was bad. And I think that the nebulizer, because I was using it religiously, like every couple of hours or as needed, or, you know, I do think that it helped because I didn't have a cough as long as my daughter did. Hers went on for a while, so I do think it helps with, you know, the length of your illness, but definitely the severity. And the COVID protocol was to help knock out the virus, but also, I don't know if I should say that. It was it keeps your lungs healthy, it keeps them moist, but the peroxide that you're breathing in helps to keep any bacterial infection from happening. You know, once you have a virus, it's pretty common. You can get bacterial pneumonia, even though it started off as a virus, because you have gunk down in there, and then it just, you know, gets to be this big thing. And so it helps with that, but it helps your body fight everything easier. Also, when you're breathing in the moisture, especially if it's winter, it just feels really good to breathe it in. It's, you know, you might think, well, I'll just run a humidifier. It's definitely not the same thing. I do have humidifiers, and it makes a difference. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just going down into your lungs, and also, you know, it's not coming from a moldy or a potentially moldy humidifier, because I think the first time you use them, it seems like they start growing stuff, and it's really hard to keep them clean. So this is a safer way to get that down into your lungs. A lot of people will breathe in steam to help with essential oils and stuff, but this is still a better delivery method, and it's safe for kids as well. This one came with a kid's size mask. This is the adult mask here, but it is safe for kids. I would not hesitate to give it to, my kids are older now, they're adult age, but you know, if I had grandkids, I wouldn't hesitate to give it to them if they had a cough. So the main reason that I think that you should have these things, like I said earlier, just to know what your numbers are, and if you're getting unhealthy, if that makes sense. When you get older, you tend to get less healthy, I think. But the biggest thing is when you can monitor it and you can know quickly if something's not good, then you can take care of it quicker. I am in my 50s and I don't take any medicine. I take a lot of supplements, but I don't take any prescription meds at all whatsoever. I have had high blood pressure. I have been hypothyroid. I actually do have a lot of health problems, believe it or not, but I have been able to take supplements to either in place of medicine, or I have taken them early enough to where it didn't get to the point where I needed medical intervention. So, and the other thing is, like I said, the doctors are going to let you down, and You need to be educated about how your body's supposed to work and when something's wrong. When you're feeling wrong, when you're feeling bad, you don't want to call your doctor's office and then say, "Okay, we can see you in 6 weeks." You measure all of the things and be like, "Well, maybe I'm just having a bad day, or maybe I've got something I'm fighting and I'm just not feeling well." Or, you measure something and it's like, "Oh my God, my blood sugar is 400. What the heck?" And you call your doctor. If you call your doctor and you say, "My blood sugar is 400, they're going to get you in. There's not going to be any, "Well, we'll see you in 6 weeks." And if they do that, find another doctor. And honestly, if they do that, go to urgent care. They will see you. Don't go to the ER, go to urgent care, because I have just some awesome stories about urgent care. So hopefully you have a good one in your area that can help you with that. But definitely, like I said, I can't say this enough. Be proactive with your health. I have known people that have dropped dead, people that I went to school with. They're not that old. And I don't know what their situation was, if they just weren't paying attention. I don't know if they were on medication and their doctors knew what was going on and it just happened. But especially since COVID and since the vaccines, and people don't really know what's in their body, just monitor all of that stuff. And in the end, all of these things, I think the nebulizer was the most expensive thing. I don't know about the blood pressure cuff, because I probably have 4, and 3 of them, or at least 2 of them, came from like garage sales or something. So, I don't know how much they are, but this stuff is not that expensive. It's probably less than a doctor's visit if you're paying out of pocket. And actually, my last doctor's visit was in October, and I had to pay $300, and they didn't even do what I wanted them to do. So that's definitely way more than all this here. So so get this stuff. Stay on top of your numbers. Make sure you're healthy, and monitor as much as you can. And we need to stop giving our money away to people that aren't taking care of us. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep that money in your wallet, because you're going to need it for something else. Somebody else is going to be after that money, not just the insurance companies and the doctors. But anyway, if you have any questions about anything I said, just comment down below. And some of this stuff that I've kind of mentioned, I'm going to talk about in other videos. But if you have a specific question, I'm not a doctor, so I can't answer like all kinds of health questions. But if you have a question about any of these products or anything else that I've said, just go ahead and leave a comment. But I hope y'all have a blessed day, and keep praying, keep being faithful, and I will talk to you soon.